Latin American festivals and destruction. We will be presenting the festivals of Fallas, Semana Santa, La Tomatina, Inini Rami, and Bomba Muoboy. These festivals vary widely in traditions, origins, and celebrations, but they all involve destruction in some way, whether it is fire, crucifixion, food fights, sacrifice, or taking a bull's tongue. First, Fallas Festival. This festival originates from Valencia, Spain, though it is now celebrated throughout Spain. Fallas officially goes from March 15th to March 19th, but some festivities begin March 1st. So what actually happens during Fallas? Basically, they burn elaborate artwork, called Fallas. For background, tradition has it that the festival originates from an old tradition of carpenters. To celebrate spring's arrival, the carpenters would burn the wood, called puros, that held up their work lights during the dark winter. They eventually added cloths to the wood and made it look like a person, which they called a niñot. This led to the modern-day elaborate fallas. Now in the modern version, fallas are huge niños on parade floats. The fallas are the whole artwork, including the niños and the surrounding structure. In Valencia, there's a competition each year for the best falla, and the winning one is the only one not burned. The fallas can be satirical or political as well. A popular food at Fallas is paella. Paella is a rice dish made with saffron, which gives the rice a yellow color. Other than that, paella can have almost any type of meat or vegetable added to it, and it's generally made over a fire with a wide pan. During Fallas, music can be heard almost constantly. For the official 5 days of the festival, music is played at 8 a.m. in the streets every morning. Religion is definitely connected to Fallas as well. To connect the festival to the church calendar, the Roman Catholic Church connected Fallas to the feast day of Saint Joseph, which happens to be on March 19th, the last day of Fallas. Saint Joseph is also the patron saint of carpenters, so this feast day paralleled the origins of Fallas well. Also, during the 2 of the days of the official 5 days of the festival, women bring flowers to a large flower ofrenda honoring the Virgin Mary, the patron saint of the city of Valencia. The ofrenda is meant to be shaped like the cape covering Mary. Finally, destruction in Fallas. Obviously, this destruction is quite clear in Fallas, maybe more so than any of the other festivals. What is the reason for this destruction? Like you will hear about in Semana Santa, the destruction comes with a hope for the future. After the figurative death of the niños comes the warmer spring. Remember, the whole festival was originally a way for carpenters to celebrate the longer and brighter days of spring that have arrived. While burning giant satirical structures of people might seem strangely violent, it also points to the larger idea that death is a natural part of the cycle of the earth, bringing new life.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrew, and I'll be talking about Semana Santa, a festival that's celebrated throughout Latin America. It's particularly centered around Holy Week, and it's a remnant from similar celebrations which occur in Spain each year to this day, except for this year because coronavirus. And this is Antigua, Guatemala. I'll kind of focus on the festival here. It's right next to a volcano, and it's just a beautiful town. Semana Santa, in particular in Antigua, Guatemala, begins with Palm Sunday, ends Easter Sunday. There are wonderful parades. Lots of people get out in the street. They carry around these magnificent floats that people carry on their shoulders. No cars here. We are carrying it on our shoulders. That must be very heavy. And most businesses close down for 4 days, Thursday through Sunday, just to celebrate. And then this is a reenactment of the crucifixion, something that they do regularly in these celebrations. Wooden floats with depictions of Jesus are carried throughout town. They follow Catholicism's veneration of Mary with Mary's own float. Now, if you notice the difference, only ladies carry this float on their shoulders, but in the picture above with Jesus, only men seem to be carrying it. Holy Thursday involves, in many Catholic churches, the priest washing the feet of 12 random people in the church just to symbolize humility and servitude like Jesus did during Easter week. Flowers, rugs, and streamers abound. Rugs called alfombras de azarín are made. They're just beautiful. Many carry streamers throughout the street. Flower arrangements are made. In Ecuador in particular, many people make a stew with 12 ingredients to commemorate the 12 disciples, which is very similar to Like Water for Chocolate, the movie we watched in class, where ingredients had a lot of significance. So I would like to talk about destruction as a theme in Semana Santa. There's apparent destruction in, most obviously, the crucifixion, which the Holy Week is centered around on that Friday. And you can see in this image just kind of how, like, it's a very solemn event, but there's also a lot of joy in the back of the line here, people dancing. It kind of relates to Latin America's kind of dual emphasis of sorrow and joy in a particular event, which I'll talk about later. Betrayal is celebrated in Goiás, Brazil, where torchlights are carried in a procession with rather scary costumes. These costumes are meant to resemble executioner outfits. This comes from a similar practice of people wearing these kind of outfits in Spain, and it just emphasizes betrayal. During Lent, people kind of destroy their desire for meat. Flowers that went into the elaborate displays begin to rot, so something that was so pretty is destined to eventually not look so pretty. In Peru, they celebrate apparent destruction because one of their processions during their Semana Santa week, this is in the particular town of Cusco, Peru, celebrates how their cathedral was the only building left after earthquakes. So, and this is a picture of that cathedral. And then in Venezuela, an effigy of prominent leaders in the town are burned during what they call the Burning of Judas. Other countries like Mexico have similar festivals. This is a video. This is very reminiscent of destruction. And this occurs during Semana Santa. Why celebrate such events? It is a little bit strange to celebrate such a sadistic way as crucifixion for someone to die. But in the article on Dia de los Muertos, I thought an interesting quote that kind of related to this was, I believe that the poet hopes to find in death, which is in effect our origin, a revelation, that his temporal life has denied him, the true meaning of life. Christians, though, find meaning in Christ's loving sacrifice. Dia de los Muertos similarly celebrates death. Octavio Paz talks about death is present in our fiestas, our games, our love, and our thoughts. Just emphasizing how death is present in a lot of what they think about and celebrate. From the apparent destruction of Christ on the cross comes new life through forgiveness on earth and in the future in heaven. Celebrating betrayal also seems to highlight the value of friendship. Paz talks about in his article how like friends through like kind of betrayal can figure out that they actually are friends. Though the flowers may rot, they were beautiful for a time. Relative deprivation enhances the enjoyment later on, like with food. Choosing to remember solemn events in the midst of a fun time gives you a kind of contrast that enhances the enjoyment. Burning effigies of their leaders acknowledges the bad to kind of enhance the good and start fresh. I think it all kind of wraps up in Paz's quote that says, the pressure of our vitality, like our life, which can only express itself in forms that betray it, like that one festival with the torchlights, explains the deadly nature, aggressive or suicidal, of our explosions, just like the Burning of Judas festival.
The next festival we look at is Bumba Meu Boi. The festival began in the 18th century in northern Brazil. It was an outlet for the poor to vent their frustrations, as a chance to mock the rich through plays with elaborate dances and music. The most popular play tells the story of the death and rebirth of an ox. Bumba Meu Boi translated means Bumba my ox, or dance my ox. In the play, the ox is thought to symbolize the people of Brazil. When the play was created, the ox was an animal of very high regard and importance. It was used in farming, but common people's social lives also revolved around the ox, in the forms of bullfighting and calf dancing. The story is different between a lot of the regions of Brazil, but the themes usually stay the same. It starts off with a woman wanting the ox's tongue and a cowboy searching for the ox. The cowboy goes through very unique adventures with several characters and unique dances. The ox is usually killed accidentally, but it's resurrected after the town comes together, and there are many attempts to resurrect it. The play almost always ends in a celebration of the ox's resurrection with a big feast. Today, the festival has grown into one of the largest celebrations in Brazil. It now occurs biannually, both in June and during the New Year, and the festival has evolved beyond just the original play. It now includes the traditional dance of the ox, but more modern festivals and partying. Usually these days, instead of just one festival showing the play, there's a couple of competing teams that dress up in different colors and put the play dance on, and then the audience will usually vote or award a winner somehow. Just like the other festivals that we've covered, Bumba Meu Boi has very clear themes of destruction. The clearest example is in the death of the ox, the removal of its tongue, and its resurrection, which is meant to symbolize the struggle of the lower classes. The festival began as a social critique on Brazil's wealthy, and as a chance for the poor to mock the rich and take out all of their anger and frustration on them. In the festival, The audience is just as much of a character as the dancers. They will often sing to or even interact physically with the dancers. Some regions even have the tradition of mock fighting between the audience and the dancers. This is because usually the dancers were members of the poor just like the audience, and it was more of a group chance to come together as a community and vent their frustration.
The festival I will be talking about is Inti Raymi. This festival originated from the Incan Empire, so it's mainly celebrated in Peru. It is a festival for the Incan sun god. It's called Inti Raymi because Inti means sun and Raymi means celebration. Traditionally, it's celebrated in Sacsayhuaman in Cusco, Peru, which is the historical capital of the Incan Empire. Machu Picchu was scientifically discovered in 1911. This discovery created a sense of pride in the Peruvian people, so Cusco intellectuals decided to recover the lost traditions of their culture. This led to the modern celebration of Inti Raymi starting in 1944. According to tradition, Pachacutec, the first Incan, created the celebration for the winter solstice/New Year. The first several days are for normal partying, and then on June 24th, the traditional and more cultural celebration starts. Starting on June 24th, traffic is shut down in Cusco for actors, dancers, singers, and other performers to entertain. 2 talented actors are chosen to play the Emperor and Empress of the Incan Empire. These actors and the performers mentioned before prepare for months in advance before the festival. The Emperor then addresses the rising sun and leads a procession down an ancient path that the first Inca was believed to have created. Once the procession gets to Sacsayhuaman, a llama is traditionally sacrificed. This is to appease the sun god and make the days get longer again, since this festival takes place during the winter solstice. Nowadays, the sacrifice is pretty much staged. However, the idea is still present that something must be destroyed in order to bring about new life in spring. More often than not, life and death go hand in hand.
La Tomatina is a food fight festival held on the last Wednesday of August each year in the town of Buñol. Thousands upon thousands of people make their way from all corners of the world to fight in this world's biggest food fight, where more than 120 metric tons of overripe tomatoes are thrown in the streets. Prior to 2013, up to 50,000 people crammed into this huge tomato fight, greatly expanding Buñol's normal 9,000-person population. Since 2013, official ticketing has been in place limiting the number of participants to just 20,000 lucky people. In 2002, La Tomatina was added to the list of fiestas of international tourist interest by the Secretary of Department of Tourism. While there might not seem to be much to do in Buñol, this town comes to life every August when the La Tomatina festival takes place. The tomato fight has been a strong tradition in Buñol since 1945. No one is completely certain how this event originated. Possible theories on how the Tomatina began include a juvenile class war, a practical joke on a bad musician, and the anarchic aftermath of an accidental truck spillage. Another popular theory is that disgruntled townspeople attacked city councilmen with tomatoes during a town celebration. With that being said, this popular festival most likely began by accident on the last Wednesday in August in 1945 during the Corpus Christi celebration in People's Square. The parade featured giants and large heads, which are large costumed papier-mâché figures accompanied by a marching band. A few youngsters made one of the participants fall, hitting everything that got in his way. The crowd became angry and began throwing tomatoes that they found on a nearby vegetable stand. The throwing continued until authorities broke up the madness, ending the first Tomatina festival. The following year, those who remembered the festival quarrel brought tomatoes from home and decided to relive the vegetable fight again at the same event, pelting tomatoes at one another in a lively and fun manner. It was enjoyed so much that it was repeated the next year and the year after that, and so on. The throwing of tomatoes was banned from the town of Buñol in the early 1950s. The authorities did not find it amusing, and there were also many complaints from the older population of the town. In 1957, a tomato burial parade was held in August in the town as a sign of protest. Musicians played funeral tunes as they marched with a coffin filled with the infamous fruit. The people of the town were moved by the unity of the young people, and La Tomatina of Buñol became an official festival. Again, despite being banned briefly in the 1970s during the Spanish state period under Francisco Franco for having no religious significance, it has returned full throttle every year after his demise. Now, the festival is in honor of the town's patron saints, Louis Bertrand and the Mother of God of the Defenseless, a title of the Virgin Mary. To enjoy a full experience, it would be wise to stay in Buñol for a week-long celebration, which involves music, dancing, parades, and fireworks. The night before La Tomatina, a paella cooking competition is held, where women traditionally dress in white and men forego shirts altogether. The festival will begin at approximately 11 o'clock in the morning, when many trucks haul the bounty of tomatoes into the center of the town. Technically, the festival does not begin until one brave soul has climbed the Palo Jabon, which is a 2-story high, greased-up wooden pole that was hoisted at 9 o'clock, and has reached the coveted Spanish ham at the top. In practice, this process takes a long time, and the festival starts despite no one reaching the meaty prize. The signal for the beginning of the fight is the firing of water cannons and a gunshot, and the chaos begins. Once it begins, the battle is generally every man for himself. The next hour is spent grabbing tomatoes, crushing them slightly, and then tossing them at everyone else. When the hour is up, a gunshot is heard, and all tomato throwing must cease. The cleaning process involves the use of fire trucks to spray down the streets. The authorities seem more concerned with cleaning the town than cleaning the visitors, so some people find water at the Buñol River to wash themselves, although some kind residents will hose passers-by down. Once the tomato pulp is flushed, the ground is clean due to the acidity of the tomato. La Tomatina is an intense experience that will provide everyone with a hilarious way to spend part of their day in Buñol, and while everyone might think that the adults are the only ones that can have all the fun, think again as the kids can enjoy the tomatoes as well. Any child between the ages of 4 and 14 can participate in the child's version of La Tomatina on the Saturday before the big event. It is a mini Tomatina. This is held inside a fenced area in the main street, and parents will always be seen taking pictures of their kids and laughing alongside the fence. Very importantly, the rules of La Tomatina consist of the following. Do not bring bottles or hard objects as they can cause accidents and hurt other participants. Do not rip other people's t-shirts. You must squash the tomatoes before throwing them as this reduces the impact. Ensure you keep a safe distance from the trucks. As soon as you hear the second gunshot, you must stop throwing tomatoes. What is the reason for painting the town red with numerous tons of the juicy fruit, you ask? Pure, unadulterated enjoyment and the absolute destruction of the boredom that is brought about by everyday life. Revelers who attend La Tomatina don't hold back as they join in the crowds swimming in, wading through and throwing tomatoes. Whilst all may not appreciate what Buñol offers outside of La Tomatina, no one will be able to resist the exuberant fun and frivolity of this town's annual fiesta and the opportunity to throw tomatoes at people for an hour. It might be a crazy tradition, but it's a lot of fun to be experienced with a huge amount of people.